Live go crazy on this one.
Child. Y'all know the deal. 700 squad. Free rally. Yeah. Them suckers put your nigga on the tee, better slide on them. Gas up, mask up, nigga, slide on them. Fellas hit you up with a lick, you better slide on them. Get your money right, nigga, if you slide on them. Mind them bitches in your DM, you better slide on them. Glock 40 box of magnets, better slide on them. Sheriff get behind you, light you up, you better slide on them. Caught a felony before you better slide.
What's up? What's up? What's poppin'? I know y'all been long awaiting. It's NateDoggSac916 coming at you live from Sacramento. Hey, y'all know what it is, man. Go ahead and hit that like, that subscribe, and that post notification bell so you can catch when I post. Hey, man, if you got something to say, go in the comments, man. Because this is not a live, this is a recorded video. So don't hit comments like I'm going to answer you right now. And if you got something that I don't get to, go to IG at Nate.Dog916 and get at me. So today we following up on the live from level 4 interview I put up with a brother from inside of prison. And we're going to get back to it, man. So first of all, good morning, brother.
Hey, what it is?
All right. How you doing, man?
Oh, man, you know, man, any day above ground is a good day.
That's a fact. That's a fact. So at the end of our last interview, bro, we were talking about your first and only trip to juvenile hall. So tell me, what was that like, you going to juvenile hall for the first time?
So, you know, what's funny is I actually was looking forward to going, you know, for two reasons. One, because I knew I was going to get my ass whooped for stealing that car when I got home.
Right.
But two, in that era and that time, you really kind of couldn't even get in the conversation if you hadn't been to the hall. You know what I mean? So I knew that this would be another stepping stone toward me building the type of reputation that I thought that I wanted.
So how old were you at this time?
I was 15.
So basically, you said 15 or 16?
15.
So you was only 15. You don't have a rep yet.
No. Just we was little young street punks just running around. Right. You know, trying to emulate some of the older cats. That's all.
Okay. So what was it like upon? I mean, obviously you wanted to go there. Obviously you wanted to get away from the discipline that was waiting for you at home from your father. So what was it like stepping in through that door, though?
Right. So here's the funny part about it all, right? So on your first offense, you don't get to stay. Your first offense, they bring you in, they book you, you meet with a caseworker, and they call your parents to come pick you up. So at the end of the day, my trip was a day and a half, and I still got that ass whooping.
Of course. Absolutely. So basically, you really didn't have any kind of serious interaction inside of the hall while you were there.
No, it was just enough time to get processed, and then I got to see cats from my neighborhood that were like, "Oh, what? M's here?
Yeah.
Okay." You know, and it was the nods. And you know what's funny is a nod is a very small thing, but it can hold a lot of meaning.
Oh yeah.
And I knew what it meant when I got to my dorm and got those nods and those dabs. And I'm gonna break it down for you what it meant.
Okay.
It meant that when school started the next week and I saw those dudes, like we had stories in common that other kids didn't have.
Right.
All of a sudden it was like, oh, okay. And even though looking back now, it was petty. It was petty. But at the same time, we were all youngsters, all trying to use what we were doing as stepping stones to a reputation, and we co-signed that for each other.
Absolutely.
There were kids that I didn't really have a relationship with before, but because I started running into them at the probation department, or we shared the same probation officer, or even if I seen them that one day, now we have something in common. And that's actually how I made some associations that later on would have serious consequences.
Okay. So you're back on the streets, and now obviously you've been locked up. Even though it was just a day will hold weight. Just going through them doors will hold a little bit more weight than not ever going through those doors.
For a juvenile, yeah.
Yeah. So, what was the treatment from others different? Even older people in the street?
Absolutely, because another part attached to that is when I stole the car, I had some crimies with me, and I was a little fat kid, little roly poly kid, right?
Right.
I was the one that couldn't run and get away,
Right.
but I kept my mouth shut, and because I kept my mouth shut, that is what the older kids respected. They were like, okay, we know we can bring him along because he's not going to tell.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I understand that totally. So you back in the streets. You did your first juvenile, let's say visit.
Right.
And now you back to your bullcrap.
Right. And what it did, it purchased me access. It purchased me access into those other circles. So now I get invited in to a little crew of kids that kind of had been there, and we all had the same probation officer. We were seeing each other at the probation office. At that time, your probation officer would come check up on you at school as well. So he would pull us all out at the same time, and that's how we got to recognize each other. And we kind of started to bond because we had that in common. And of course, we were doing our little dirt. We selling $2 joints. We are basically looking out for each other. And what we're really starting to do is we're starting to get cohesiveness. We're starting to become a group.
Right.
And that was my first step on the road to really getting involved in gang participation.
Okay. And we spoke about this before. So when you say gang participation, you mean the gang of fellas that you were around, right? Absolutely.
They use it a lot in corrections when you're getting prepared for board, when you're in self-help groups, and they have a definition of a gang, which is two or more people who come together to commit crime.
Okay.
And that's a pretty accurate definition. You ain't got to have no colors. You ain't got to have no turf. Like, really, righteously, that's what we was doing before we knew you were supposed to put colors on it. Before
Right.
we knew you were supposed to put a turf on it.
Okay. So now you're back in the city you were raised in, and you doing your stuff. Eventually, you catch a real case. And don't let me put a disclaimer on here before I get a lot of comments about that. Any case that you go to any kind of incarceration for is a real case. But when I say a real case, I mean a grown-up case.
Right.
So you eventually catch a real case.
Right, absolutely.
This call and/or telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
My first real case came 4 years later.
Okay.
At the age of 19.
Right.
So this same group of guys that I had met back then, I kind of said before that it would lead to other things. So, and also you got to trip. I'm of a certain age to where I remember I was about 15, right around the time crack cocaine hit. So I'm aware of how crack changed my community and my neighborhood and my place in that.
Right.
It seemed as if overnight shootings became more common.
Okay.
To where before the crack epidemic, a shooting was pretty rare in the area I'm from. In the area I'm from, it was only a few dudes that really was getting down with pistol play.
Right.
But when crack came, money came. And when money came to these poor communities, well, then came the need to defend it. You dig what I'm saying?
Right.
One of the things that we don't really make the connection of a lot of times is the growth of gangs was exactly tied to the growth of drugs proliferating through our neighborhoods.
Right.
And so my first case involved all of that. Because what it involved was, now that I was 19, there were younger cats that were under me that I kind of looked out for. And I didn't do it because I had a good heart. I did it because I knew that would further my stature in my neighborhood and in my community.
Right, because they would look at you as the older homie that looked out.
I could prove myself to be a good big homie. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Very selfish reasons, man.
Absolutely.
I want to be transparent, man.
Absolutely.
Because I know a lot of people that are going to hear this might not really understand what the game is about, And so, back to my story, so what we had was a situation where some individuals from another block tried to tell some of my little homies that they couldn't grind on that block. And I knew that they could handle it, but I stepped in personally because I wanted to use
You have 60 seconds remaining.
as yet another stepping stone in my career.
Right.
I knew that disrespect cannot be tolerated, and it must be answered.
Right.
So I took it upon myself to kind of even the score. So what I did was I waited until I knew one of the individuals was hanging out at a spot, at this burger spot where he always hung out at. And so I wanted to make sure that it was seen, because another thing people understand is handling business don't really mean nothing if cats don't know you're the one that did it.
Right.
In my mind, in my
Absolutely.
time, I needed y'all to know it was me that did this.
Bullshit, no time. Free real, he'll be back in no time. Get money, flip bricks in no time. Dex tripping on the beach, no time. Amount of time I got for bullshit, no time. Free real, he'll be back in no time. Get money, flip bricks in no time. Dex tripping on the beach, no time. Get money, get dollars, bruh. Scrooge McDuck, bang, don't misuse your luck. And hit the weed, think about it. Like Gutter say, nigga, we gon' see about it. My nigga just got hit, I'm waiting on the word. I pray to God he pulled through for the family, say